Good evening. This is the rules and regulations video for 2017. New and improved. Alright, so chances are that if you've gotten hold of this link and you're either invited to join a group, you have joined a group, or you have walked into a chat. First and foremost, if this is your first introduction to my channel, welcome. I encourage you all to go down to my disclaimer video if you're new to the community. For those of us that are just sitting back here enjoying the reboot of the regulations, sit tight. For a start off, I've got a wonderful list here, and I'm just going to start down from one. Number one is that there is still an interview for most of the groups and chats. And if you're joining Nocturn, there are questions when you join. I may come and ask you a couple of extra questions depending on your answers. We have had a little bit of a problem with people who have been vague answering their interview questions. The more vague you are, the more questions I literally have to ask. Usually I'm asking about your symptoms, vampiric symptoms, or your esoteric studies. I'm not usually asking personal questions. I'm not asking, what your gender is, what your sexual orientation is, or your religious beliefs, or how old you are. I'm usually asking things like, give me a general ballpark of how old you are, give or take 3 years. Things like that. If I'm asking where you live, I'm usually asking about what sort of territory you live in, maybe what your state is, mostly so I can try and recall the people around you. If you're in the Bible Belt and you want to join the garden because it's metaphysic and esoteric / witchcraft related, and you're in the Bible Belt, do you think we want to know that for your safety? Answer would be yes. It's not meant to be personal information. It's meant to help us get you better connected with other people. With that being said, any of these rules, if you break one, you receive one warning. You only get one warning. Now, if you upset more than 3 people, that can also be your warning. We have had problems where people have been in chat, they haven't broken any rules, but they're just like, I'm blunt, can't help it, love me the way I am. And I'm like, you know what? No, because if I can hold my temper and I can hold being blunt, so can you. And if you cannot be that kind of disciplined, adios muchachos, we don't need you here. It's not appropriate. Noxer, the common room, the attic, they're usually family-friendly places. You don't need to be ruffling anyone's feathers there, upsetting anyone. Usually people there are above the age of 30. I think I might actually be the youngest there. I'm not sure. I know we've got some older members. I don't think we have anybody who's like 18. I don't think we have anybody that young in there. And they're most of them are veterans. They don't enjoy ruckus. They don't enjoy the sprats and the greenhorns running around. It's sort of like the atmosphere is almost retirement home in there. Retirement home for the VC. Let's see. If you do break enough rules to be removed, you potentially can be removed from everywhere, depending on how offensive your offense was. So if you break enough rules, which is usually 2 or 3, in order to gain a warning, and then you piss off 3 people, you get removed. And not only from the chat that you created the offense in, but probably in any other chat that I am also involved in. Because we have enough inter-chat members that everyone is everywhere. So that becomes really difficult to corral the non-rule abiding people. Number 3, I have here, the garden is not affiliated with any other chats. It is strictly just metaphysical practice, even, you know, talk of pagan studies, all of that. It is that part of the community. Number 4, underage. We do not encourage people to privately talk with minors. We encourage that if you are a minor, that you have an alias, that you will remain anonymous. Depending on how how good you are at adulting, your mental capacity to be an adult will depend on whether you stay or not. Normally, way back when in the community, if you were under the age of 21, you were not allowed in the community. But because the internet is here and there's nothing we can do to stop it, is that if we don't accept you, you will go on to look for other places that will accept you. And the places that will accept you are teeming with people that want to make you a victim. We would prefer, much more prefer, that we educate the underage so that they can put 2 and 2 together and tell when they're in a dangerous situation. Because let's face it, they like to get into dangerous situations and they don't often understand, strictly due to naivety, how bad a situation can go. They lack the control. This is where basic education has taught people abstinence and people have gone, ha 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 ha, yeah, that works so well. We're gonna go, no. You need to know because people are going to screw up. I'm sorry I made a sex ed reference. Oops. Number 5, RPG, fakes, masqueraders, and fic and folk. Folk? Oh, all right. So, we do accept people who RPG in the community. We just simply ask that in these particular chats or social rings that you do not RPG. That if you are going to RPG, like say you're in a kit group and I know for a fact that you're in another kit group and that one is strictly for RPG. We get a lot of, psst, did you know that such and such RPGs? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And that's why they don't do it here. So if you are going to RPG and you are going to initiate something, you put RP next to it. That way, if one of our members sees you RPing, that they know that you're RPing. They know that you know that we know. That way we don't get that problem. There's a crow outside. Sorry. And as for fiction and folklore, we're okay with talking about it, but we need to put in big bold letters that when we decide to talk about it, you know, I would like to talk about fiction for a minute. You know, can we talk about folklore? There really needs to be the bracket so everybody understands that when they come into the chat, they're like, oh, they're talking about fiction. Oh, they're talking about folklore. That has to happen because we cannot blur the lines. We cannot just start talking about it. That people have to flag that there is a difference in what we're talking about because the VC does not entertain, nor does it like or put up with or encourage that gray line. Number 6, leaving social rings the right way. Petition is available if you want to come back in. If you leave by mistake, contact me immediately. Contact someone who can let you back in. You know, accidents happen. You know, you go to like mute something and you accidentally leave and you're like, oh, crud. You know, that happens. Just contact us immediately and say, you know, I've got to go, but, you know, I accidentally left by mistake. Can you please add me back in? Sure. Sure. However, if you leave because you just never want to talk to us again, you can't bear it, you're such a special snowflake, and you leave without leaving a review, constructive criticism, and a why you are leaving, and you ask to be back in, the answer is no. That if you are going to leave, we ask that you give a reason why and constructive criticism. People leave, there's nothing we can do about it to fix a situation on why you left if you don't tell us why you left. And if you're leaving because there isn't enough flow, like, am I a teacher up here? Do I need to spoon feed you the information? You can't dig up things on your own to share, to add to the conversation? I mean, I do speak every once in a while, like I do incur and encourage a subject, but I cannot do that 24/7. I have a 40-hour-a-week job as it is, and aside from all these chats and working metaphysically and doing readings and scannings for people and healing, on top of all that, not to mention there are people that I do take care of. So it's difficult for me to constantly inflate chats. I encourage other people to try. Do help me if you can. Petition available. What I mean by petition is that some chats are by invite only, like the basement, is that it would be wonderful if people could start coming in and say, I really want such and such to be in the basement. Can we talk about the reasons why or why not they are not here? Is that those places are by invite only. Those people either need to come to me and talk to me so they can be added, or we need to talk about them in a group on why they should be added. And with saying that, it leads right into number 7, probation. Is that if you are in, say, the RVCQA info, any of the network chats, is that technically you get a month probation before being added to the basement. Don't let me forget. If you've been there a month and you've been a good noodle, let me know so I can add you. And as well as minors are on probation as well. The moment you enter a chat, you are on probation. If you fail your probation, you will be removed. Probation also exists for the attic and the common room of the Nocturn chats. 8. Keep chats on topic. We have several chats and they have topics, and that is for everyone's safety. Do not do common talk in chats that have topics. You accidentally end up sharing personal information. It clogs up the chat. It dumbs down the quality of the chat. Things can happen in chat. Misunderstandings, flame wars. With a segue on flame wars, you cause a flame war, you cause an argument, within 3 hours, you don't apologize to each other, I will remove you both. I mean, if there is, like, verbal throwing of objects and yelling and cursing, it gets to that level, I will not allow you to stay. You never know who is in a chat. I know who are in chats, mostly because I put them there. So our lovely men in blue, usually separated by things like geography, position. We have a couple of hackers, and one in particular, I don't know if they would consider themselves a vigilante or not. I know we have one that is related for intelligence for the FBI. Again, keep chats to topic. If there are things you wouldn't want them to hear, don't say it. That's why we have the basement for common talk. It's also technically our emergency radio channel. It's a place for family. It's the place to kick back and remove your shoes, just like the common room in Nocturn. Let's see, what else do I have down here? Don't pick a cheesy name. Minors, anyone who wants to remain anonymous, anyone in a chat, um, don't pick a cheesy name. Don't pick anything that could be linked to the subject you are talking about. We get a lot of people in that have pictures from Vampire Diaries and hold names from characters of the same ilk. Don't do that, please. Do not make it vampiric or esoteric related. Your phone can get stolen. If you're a minor, your phone can get confiscated. If something happens to you, you know, somebody could pick up your phone, and the moment they see a bunch of people that have vampiric related names, they're going to start asking questions. Just don't do it. We have some keywords down here. Keywords like radio silence. When you log on and you see a gigantic in bold radio silence, don't say anything. It's there for a reason. We're having an emergency. And until radio silence is lifted, you need to go around from private chat to private chat and figure out what the heck is going on and why we're on radio silence. That is what that means. Always scroll up before you say hello in a chat. Do a little bit of a recap. We also have the word tally down here, as in to tally a vote. If somebody comes in and they're just oily, they smell like low tide, there's a thick air of fish. If something just isn't right, these people didn't answer the prompt quick enough, they're stalling, they're being vague. You know, hey, they could be fishing for someone's IP address. Don't play around with those people. Just stop talking to them and say tally. And tally would mean, do they stay? Do they go? 3 yeses, 3 nos. And they'll either be removed instantly or I will take over. Someone who can evaluate will take over. The last thing I have here on the list is unlawful. And I am sorry that I have to end on this note, because it's actually quite negative. Whether you make a threat to person, property, or object is irrelevant. We find out that you have an open case, you have a record, you're engaged in some kind of legality at that minute. We cannot conversate with you. Not only do I have to take full responsibility for what happens in chats, but also anything that happens in chats that can tarnish the vampire community would be something I would be directly responsible for. And that is a hot seat. And I am not willing to put myself there because of you. So we find out that you've done anything unlawful. And I'm not talking about the gate crashing you did when you were 18. I'm talking about the 10 pounds of coke you have hidden underneath the floor. Or in the boot of your car. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the break-in that you had when you were 18. I'm talking about the assault you did last week. The domestic violence case that has been recently reported. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the serious things. Violence, insanity, not being able to articulate or talk correctly in front of law enforcement, that kind of stuff. We have to remove you. I won't even deal with you. The moment you say something, boom, you are gone. We find out anything, I get a screenshot from someone, you are gone. I won't even bother explaining myself. I'll simply give you the screenshot and block you. The last subject I have to talk about is threat to one's self. And this happened recently. We had someone who made a suicide threat in chat, and several people saw it, and several people did not understand the way I reacted, and they were rather upset about my own reaction, not even understanding why I was acting the way I was, I will notify the authorities. I have had to do that. I have had friends that were suicidal. It is quite the trigger for me. It makes me very, very irritated. I have a very short fuse on that subject, and it's not because I have a lack of compassion. It will literally keep me up. Also, making that kind of threat means that you move to the top, the highest priority on the top of my list, no matter what I was doing that day. You literally forced my hand. Now, this rule is sort of like a part A and a part B to this rule. Is that part A is that you made the threat, whichever the threat was to person, self, property, object, it didn't matter. You made the threat. You're gone. Now, the person that antagonizes you or says anything to person A, person B, you are also out the door. The moment someone makes a threat, it is radio silence. That is an emergency situation. Nobody talks because I'm going to need the screenshot of the threat and how quickly they were removed. They need to be really close together. There needs to be nothing said in between what they said and being removed. I would actually, a good thing of advice would be that you not even talk to that person ever again, or at least for a week, I would say, because you wouldn't want to be called into question for anything that happens after the fact. If something were to happen to you, if you made a suicide threat and something happened to you, and someone found your phone and dug through it and found anything from the vampire community, our reputations would be tarnished. Technically, someone could even sue us for negligence if we didn't report it. So, you make a threat, you are out so fast. This is partially why this video has come about and our rules have been revamped. No pun intended. I think that is everything. And that comes to the ending question. Why do we have these rules? Because they're necessary, because things have happened. That is why. I get a lot of minors, people that are underage, saying, gosh, you guys got a lot of rules. Why? This is why. So, here the endeth. And with no more gilding of the lily, I bid you all a fabulous evening and a wonderful night. And I sincerely hope you enjoy the social rings. Good luck.